Hey everybody, thank you for tuning in. This is the Nightmare Room. I am Nick Nightmare, the voice of the Sledgehammer Wrestling Show podcast. But this is not that. This is the Nightmare Room. And what's the difference, might you think? Well, the difference mainly being that, the other show is a review show. It's a recap show. It's a place for me to discuss what they've given us, what I just watched, what we've all experienced on Monday Night Raw and SmackDown and NXT, CWC. It's a place for us to trash if we don't like, to applaud if we do like. But it's mostly a reactive show. It's for us to react to what they've given us, for me to review it and share my feelings with you. This show is completely different. This show is pretty much a editorial piece. It's a place for me to just vent out if need be, just speak my mind on whatever's happening in and around the world of sports entertainment, whether it be breaking news or whether we do some special episodes where we focus on perhaps maybe top 10 lists or a best of a certain superstar. Say our 10 favorite matches from this one, or our 10 favorite Survivor Series matches, so, things of that nature, things that hopefully will be more interactive the more the audience grows, which I hope you will help me make it grow and spread the word and get it out there, so that we can really have an interactive platform. I want to interact with not just my friends, but with fans and of my show and of wrestling, because really that's what it's all about. That's why we're here. That's what we're here to talk about, is wrestling. Always the most important part of this show. So, without further ado, we're going to get the first edition of the Nightmare Room rolling on. We're going to try to barrel through some quick and pretty interesting breaking news. Are the Dudley Boys headed to TNA Impact Wrestling? Yes, it seems we all know that they had their last match on Monday Night Raw, but I do not believe it's the last time we will see the Dudley Boys in a ring. They went backstage after their match and their interaction with Gallows and Anderson, and they received a standing ovation from the locker room. Everybody was standing back there, all lined up, as they do, as we have seen on some episodes when a superstar is leaving. They're all lined up in the back. You get a nice big standing ovation. You shake hands, you hug, you say your goodbyes, and they walked away. And apparently both wrestlers have come to terms with the WWE and are really once again gone from the roster. What a huge mistake this is. But thinking about it, in the Dudley Boys' point of view, it's probably not a big mistake. Look at what the WWE has done to the Dudleys. Since they came in with a bang, they made a big splash, and since then they have jobbed them out over and over, just losing. What is the last match that the Dudley Boys won that even mattered anything since they came back up to the big show in the WWE? Nothing significant had happened to them. Even though they were part of the draft, they stayed on Raw, and nothing really came to fruition the way I thought was going to happen. I just really assumed that the Dudleys were going to win that 10th World Tag Team title. That probably was their intentions upon their return, and in doing so they would make a lot of the other guys look great, and they would put over guys like Enzo and Cass, maybe work with a team like the Ascension or Gallows and Anderson, and even the New Day, and just have this great mix of tag teams that they can really help build up the division again. And I think that's what they were looking to do. They wanted to help establish what ended up being a kind of weak division on two separate shows, which either one of the shows would have benefited tremendously from the Dudleys' input and the Dudleys' interaction with their other teams. But it just doesn't seem to work out that way, and I can't tell you why. There's no real reason why I can see, except for the fact that the WWE doesn't know what they have when they have it. And you brought back a team that you helped to establish this legacy, and then they walked away, and it just seems that there's that TNA stigma. Like, if you go there and then you come back here, like, we don't care about you anymore. Which is what scares me about guys like AJ Styles and Samoa Joe and Austin Aries and Bobby Roode. Like, no matter how big you are, I'm just always afraid that this overhanging cloud of their past is always going to stop them from getting the ultimate push, a push that could be deserved just by being who they are from where they came from. But we all know that they frown upon that. They frown upon that. They don't like when you're already somebody. That was one of Daniel Bryan's problems. He didn't come from TNA, but he was an independent person. He had his persona. He had this personality of the American Dragon, and they would not allow him to bring that, even though I think by then he was already going by Bryan Danielson, his real name, and they just flipped it around and now he's Daniel Bryan. But that's a WWE property, and it wasn't until they gave him Daniel Bryan that they kind of started to get behind him. But even then, they didn't push him ultimately. Why? Because he was an indie guy, and because he was small, and he's not the face of the company, and whatever other tag you want to do. And that's the same kind of thing I think we're seeing happen to the Dudley Boys. No matter what they did in the WWE's past, they still left and went there. So why should we bring them back here and reward them? I think that might be the mentality. I hope that they wouldn't be that petty, but it's hard to say, because what reason would the Dudleys have to leave otherwise? Why wouldn't they stay at least to be inducted in the Hall of Fame and then go do whatever you want to do? Something big happened there, something that we may never know. But the interesting part about the whole thing is that for the past week or two, I would say, if you follow Broken Matt Hardy on Twitter, he's been claiming that the Dudleys are going to end up being part of the Great War that he keeps speaking of, and some are reading into that and saying that that's a little bit of a lead-in for the Dudleys to return and maybe work a program with Matt and Jeff, who are right now in line to challenge the TNA World Tag Team Champions, the Decay. So I fully expect, if the Hardys, this weird new version of the Hardys, ends up winning the tag team titles, I expect the Dudley Boys to show up at TNA and probably start a program with them again. All the evidence that we have here seems to point in that general direction. Some other news rolling along the internet is the plans for Samoa Joe have supposedly been revealed. According to DailyWrestlingNews.com, following his performance at NXT TakeOver Brooklyn, where he supposedly passed the torch to Shinsuke Nakamura, Samoa Joe is on his way to the main roster of SmackDown, which opens up many doors for him. Joe could end up going against AJ Styles for the WWE Championship, or it even possibly sets up a dream match between Samoa Joe and John Cena down the line, possibly even at WrestleMania. I think that this plan is absolutely the way to go. However, I don't believe we're going to see it happen that quickly. I know that after that match that Samoa Joe had with Shinsuke, I'm pretty sure that Shinsuke really almost broke his jaw. I don't think that program is done yet. I didn't see them really position anybody to really face Nakamura yet. I think he's going to get one more shot, possibly at just NXT, just a regular taping. Maybe there'll be another takeover. If they wait that long, it's possible. I don't think it's going to be right away. But when it does happen, I cannot wait to see. No matter which way it goes, Samoa Joe versus AJ Styles. I have seen them wrestle maybe about 100 times when they were doing their thing down there in TNA. And if they give these guys the main event of SmackDown, and maybe even and bring it along all the way, can you imagine AJ Styles versus Samoa Joe for the WWE Championship at WrestleMania? Oh my God. I couldn't even begin to tell you how amazing that match would be. These two guys take it so seriously. There is no way that match would not be fantastic. It's just, the possibility of it even just gets me going on the inside, because the mere fact that this world of the WWE, this universe that we live in, a majority of them, I think, don't really watch other stuff. You know, that's why we have the problem with guys from NXT coming up. They don't really know all of them too well, because we don't have a lot of people in the stands that are not in major cities like New York or Vegas or Los Angeles or Florida. Like, they don't watch the network. They don't have the network. They don't watch NXT. They don't watch the CWC, and they most likely don't watch TNA, so they don't know how important a guy like Bobby Roode could be. They don't know how big AJ Styles versus Samoa Joe could be, especially if it's being put on the biggest stage of them all. It would be... There's almost no words to describe it. I can't even think of the proper word to get my emotion out, because the excitement of it alone just shuts down my brain. Like, the possibility of it, amazing. Even more so to see Samoa Joe versus John Cena. You know, that would be another one almost on par with AJ, because I think that's a dream match that the world would really want to see, that we have never seen before. Like I said, AJ we've seen fight Samoa Joe. But Samoa Joe and John Cena, that's almost like the face of TNA going against the face of the WWE as well. Because when AJ left TNA and started doing his New Japan thing, Joe was still there. Joe was the man over there. So imagine that match. Or what about a cross-branded match between maybe Samoa Joe and Brock Lesnar? And have Samoa Joe be the guy to finally take down Brock Lesnar. I think that would be very believable. I think that's something that they could definitely do going forward with Joe, if they wanted to really make him the imposing force that we've seen him be on NXT, and if he could just bring even half of that up to the main roster with him. Samoa Joe is a bad dude. He's a bad guy to the core, and I don't think there's anybody they got on the roster that plays it any better. The best bad guy they have on the roster, hands down. Even more so than Kevin Owens. I love me some Kevin Owens. He's a great bad guy, but in comparison to Samoa Joe, I'm way more afraid of Samoa Joe. He does not make me laugh nearly as much as Kevin Owens will, and he's much more imposing and intimidating. Kevin Owens almost just as big, but I'd be more scared of Joe. I don't know about you, that's just me. Speaking of Kevin Owens, let's get to some other news.
I'm afraid I've got some bad news.
Yes, unfortunately, I see this as bad news. You might not all agree with me, but we all know Finn Balor, torn labrum, out 6 to 8 months, and all sources indicate, this is coming from WrestlingObserver.com and Dave Meltzer, who is the source for definitive information in the inside world of wrestling. So if Meltzer says it, I believe it, which really, really scares me terribly, because the WWE is in panic mode. Before SummerSlam happened, Vince became open to pushing someone else besides Roman Reigns, his hand-picked favorite. Original plans prior to the brand split and Roman Reigns' suspension was for Roman to face Seth Rollins for the WWE title and have Finn Balor make his pay-per-view debut as the Demon versus Chris Jericho. And the Universal title would have been SmackDown's world title. Plans for that would have probably been AJ Styles versus John Cena with the Universal title on the line. Having AJ win, just like he did, and go over on Cena because he was going to go away to do American Grit. Have AJ be the face of SmackDown with the new title. Plans for this were obviously scrapped due to Roman Reigns' suspension. Once he was suspended, he was taken out of the title picture, which caused most of this chaos that we've had to watch. But now it seems the plans have changed again. Now, with Balor being injured, it is heavily being rumored that the WWE is going to revert to its original plan, and it seems Roman Reigns will win the Universal Championship this Monday night on Raw in Houston, Texas. There is, however, another possibility being rumored, as Kevin Owens may be the one who is believed to win the title in that match. This is believed because Finn Balor's first opponent after winning the Universal Championship was rumored to be Kevin Owens. He was supposed to work a long program with Kevin Owens, so it is also being thought that Kevin Owens will win the world title due to that, and that they'll just give it to Kevin Owens. But I don't see that happening. If Meltzer says it, I believe it to be true. I'm hoping that it's not true, but it has become apparent that Roman Reigns is most likely going to win the world title this Monday night.
Nope.
That's what I say.
Nope.
This would be a tremendous mistake. What possible positive could you guys come up with to tell me that you're going to take the most hated championship belt of all time and put it on the most hated man you have on the roster right now? That's just going to equal disaster. I do not think it's going to happen that way. I mean, like I said, if Meltzer says it, it's most likely going to be the way it goes down. But I'm hoping, against all hope, that they do it the way I think, which is going to lead us to Booked It Better. My favorite little segment we're going to have here, where I'm going to book the future before it even happens. And we're going to see if I actually booked it better than they did. See, what I would have happen here is I would have Seth Rollins win the championship. Because think about it, he's never lost his championship, and he hasn't even really been touting that fact too much. He's just kind of been almost shuffled to the background when all these other guys are getting a shot at the title. You try to put it on Roman, it didn't work, it blew up in your face. You tried to put it on Finn, now he's hurt. It's almost like the championship is asking to go back to Seth Rollins. It should go back to him almost by default, because who else are you going to give it to? Roman Reigns presents a problem. Kevin Owens is the only other logical explanation, but who do you really have to fight Kevin Owens besides Sami Zayn? Which leads me to what I would do. You turn Seth Rollins good. You have him win the title this Monday night on Raw, and go on to feud with somebody like Kevin Owens, who could be the heel. And you have them battling back and forth and back and forth. Throw in whoever you want. You know they're going to throw in Roman Reigns. I know they will. But you continue on this pattern. Maybe leave Seth Rollins as a champion, defending constantly against Kevin Owens until you throw Finn Balor back in the mix upon his return. Then you have the three of them. You'll have some of the greatest matches you've ever seen. Between the three of those guys, forget about it. Kevin Owens is a beast. Finn Balor, we all know what he's about. The demon says it all. And Seth Rollins, he's unbelievable in the ring. He could pull off some great stuff with those guys. I hope that that's what they do. That's what I would do. That's how I think I booked it better. But, as the report stated, that it's looking more and more like it's going back to Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns don't need to do this, and besides, it doesn't make sense. He's in the middle of this whole thing with Rusev, which has yet to be solved. There's been no vengeance for Rusev. There's been no finality to this. And you know what I just thought? It almost makes perfect sense to give it to Roman Reigns in the midst of this, because if he wins the world, I'm sorry, I always get this because I hate the Universal Championship. If he wins the Universal Championship on Monday, Roman Reigns, that would set up for him to continue his feud with Rusev. Maybe he'll interfere in the match, causing him to win somehow, which would lead to a match between the two at the next pay-per-view, which is titled The Clash of Champions. and the match would actually be a Clash of Champions, which would be Rusev, the United States champion, versus Roman, the World Heavyweight champion. I really don't like that. That's a bad idea. It's my own idea, but it's a bad one. That might be where they're going, guys. So, I mean, we'll see after Monday. Obviously, we'll know what direction they're booking the entire future. But as it looks right now, it does not look like it's going so well for us fans. Two more things I want to get to, I want to talk to you guys about. So let me talk to you about Nikki Bella. Nikki Bella is expected to win the Women's Championship at Backlash in the Six-Pack Challenge. This is according to CagesideSeats.com. That's a little bit of a tongue twister. Although fans have voiced overwhelming support for Becky Lynch and even at times Natalya to be the inaugural SmackDown Women's Champion. I hate that, by the way, SmackDown Women's Champion. It needs to be called something else. It's not the Raw Women's Champion. She's the Women's Champion. This could be maybe like the Women's Intercontinental Champion. How about something like that? You know, but get creative. Be more like me. Stop just giving us this bullshit dog fart nonsense. Hate it. Anyway, let's not get off track. It seems management wants to go with the established veteran and longest reigning Divas champion in history to bring prestige to a brand new title. Now, I'm not 100% against this because that final argument is true. By giving it to Nikki Bella, you automatically give it some prestige. You give it to somebody who's had an established title reign and makes it look like it's important automatically just by the person who's having it, and I get that. But I disagree with it in the way that she's just came back to the roster. And there is no reason why they could not do the same thing with Natalya. Natalya has been there for like 200 years, and I think they should reward her somehow. She's been tolerant with all the stuff that they give her to do. They've sent her to like cat parades and all kinds of nonsense stuff to do outside of the world of wrestling, and then you go in the world of wrestling, and what's she mostly been noted for as of late? She was the Great Khali's Kiss Cam partner, and then there was the time where she was walking around busting gas, and it just wasn't funny. Well, it was funny to me, but it shouldn't have been funny, and it made her look pretty stupid. But that's really neither here nor there. The fact is, Nikki Bella's going to remain face because they just turned Carmella heel on SmackDown. So I don't think we're going to see Nikki Bella versus Becky Lynch. I think there might be a transition there somewhere unless they do another double turn, but it'll be too soon to do another turn unless she has it for a while and starts to become cocky and arrogant, and then Becky's finally the one to mash her in the mouth or something like that. But, Becky Lynch will eventually be your SmackDown Women's Champion. I think the moment might be larger if they make us wait for it a little bit, and instead of just giving it to her right out the bat, which is what they've been kind of doing. It's like what they did with Sasha. They just kind of threw it at her. They gave it right to her, and look what ended up happening. It wasn't good for Sasha, and it wasn't good for the way the company would end up looking at the end of the day, having Charlotte win it back so quickly. It just was not good, and we don't want the same thing to happen to Becky. We all like Becky, and we all want her to succeed, and we know she's going to be the face of that brand eventually. And I think Nikki Bella, if she was the heel, it would have set it up a lot more interesting. But now that she's good, it'll be weird to see how they bounce the belt around or how they shift the characters around to align properly to get that belt around the waist of Becky Lynch. And I feel bad for Natalya. I'm sorry. You were there before Nikki Bella, you used to kick ass and do your thing, and then you got relegated to the jokes and the total divas and all this other stuff, and it's a hard hole to dig yourself out of. And I hoped for the best for her with this brand split, because I'm a sucker for second and third generation people. When they come from a wrestler that I enjoyed in my youth, I want the kids to succeed. So I feel bad for people like Natalia and Curtis Axel and guys that are sons, and Cody Rhodes. Look at Cody Rhodes. He's gone. He sees the shit that's going on. He knows he's not going to get pushed. He's the son of the American dream. And if he can't do it, what chance do some of these other people have? It's freaking sad. It's sad to say it all. And finally, we're going to close out today with a story about my favorite Olympic champion, Kurt Angle. Yes, Kurt Angle did an interview that I just happened to see on YouTube, where he says AJ Styles is the best wrestler alive today. And if he were to have a match with AJ Styles at, say, a WrestleMania, it would rival even Kurt's match with Shawn Michaels, who every one of us know is one of the best matches Kurt's ever had, one of the greatest WrestleMania performances that Shawn Michaels ever had, not including any of the ones he did with Taker, which will be the greatest wrestling matches of all time. But when he went in there with Angle, he tore it up. I remember that WrestleMania was a fantastic match, and he thinks him and AJ would burn that match to the ground. He also goes on to say if he ever was to come back, his dream opponent would have been Daniel Bryan. But being that he is not around anymore, he would most likely put his sights on Seth Rollins. Which was, I thought, quite interesting. Because also in the news lately, Bret Hart has been on record and has been speaking out against Seth Rollins because of all the people he's supposedly injuring. And I say that with my little finger quotes going on in the air, because, you know, he can't control what happens. It's not his fault. It's really not. It's just this one particular move, and the company as a whole needs to just tell him to stop it with that move, and the rest of his moveset is just fine. He's not going out there hurting people on a weekly basis. He's doing big spots here and there. I understand why Bret would be upset, because he sits there and says, you know, I worked all these years, I worked very clean, I wasn't stiff, and I never hurt anybody, and Bill Goldberg hurt me, and this and blah, and he goes on and on about, you know, all the bad things that has happened to him and all the bad things that Seth has done, as in hurting Sting and now hurting Finn Balor. And I'm sure there's a couple of people in there that I don't know about that he was talking about, but yeah, so Bret's been kind of down on him, which is just interesting to me, the parallel between Bret and Kurt. Now, these are two of the greatest wrestlers of all time, and one of them wants nothing to do with him, and the other one actually wants to get in the ring with him. He would love to be able to face Seth Rollins if the WWE return ever were to happen. And it's not an impossibility, because according to Kurt Angle himself, he says that there has been talks for the last few months, but the WWE is so full of talent that they don't actually need him. So it would have to be like the perfect storm of events. The story would have to be right, the wrestler would have to be right, everything would have to come together perfectly and just feel right. And as of right now, it doesn't feel that way. It feels to Kurt more like they don't even know what to do with him. And there has been talks, but they haven't gone anywhere. He said himself, he doesn't see himself wrestling in a WWE ring anytime this year. Next year, perhaps, maybe never. And that was straight from Kurt Angle himself. Never say never. You know, I say,
Do it! Just do it!
just do it, man. Do it. I'd love to see Kurt Angle back, but like we said at the top of the show with our lead story, look what they did with the Dudleys. Would they do the same thing to Kurt Angle? It's an interesting conundrum, but we will never know. until it actually happens, if it does happen. So what did we learn today, kids? We learned that the WWE's bringing people back just, I guess, so that they don't wrestle anywhere else. We learned that they're open to letting these people just walk away, even though they have all the tools and ability to help the company prosper and succeed further. We also learned that there is no creativity left in the WWE. Putting the belts aside, we got that out of our minds. We're going to have to get used to it. If some of us already are, it's not going to change. But the creativity level in this company needs to change. If you're thrown a curveball, you shouldn't just take 2 steps back to what you were originally going to do. Let's just do what we wanted to do anyway, even though that wasn't even going to work no matter what, because the fans don't want Roman to be the champion, but we want Roman to be the champion, and we changed it, and look what happened. That's wrong. That's a wrong way to look at it. You have to look at it as that we now have an opportunity to take somebody else and put him in the place of Finn Balor and make another new star. Not take this guy that's been met with so much resistance and try to use this as a situation to get him over. We also learned that there may be a reunion of sorts in TNA Impact Wrestling. And if it does happen, I say good luck to the Dudleys. Matt Hardy is doing some amazing stuff down there. You got Aaron Rex, formerly known as Damian Sandow. You got Drew Galloway, who used to be Drew McIntyre in the WWE. He's doing some great stuff down there. You have Eli Drake.
Dummy, yeah. Dummy, yeah.
He kills me with that. Dummy, yeah. Eli Drake, one of the most entertaining people they got going on. Then you got the Miracle, Mike Bennett. He's a great talent. He gets to me a little bit. Maybe it's because he's got Maria. I don't know. Just that whole package just kind of gets to me. But there's some amazing stuff going on down there. So, oh, and don't forget the World Tag Team Champions Decay with their little Rosemary Psycho Girl. Like, that whole thing is just amazing to me. It's so entertaining. I love it. I highly recommend you guys watch some TNA, because what they're doing is at least at the same level as what WWE's doing. It's not any better, but it certainly is not any worse. And it would be more worth your time to spend 2 hours in TNA in the 6-sided ring sometimes than it would be watching 3 hours of a Monday Night Raw. And finally, we also learned that there's always a light at the end of the tunnel, because there is hope that we will see Kurt Angle again. There is hope that the Dudleys will wrestle again, albeit somewhere else. There is hope that somebody besides Roman Reigns will win this Monday. There is hope that Finn Balor will be back sooner than later. So let's always have hope. Use the power of positivity. Eat your bootios, and it'll come to you naturally. And you could be like me. Thank you guys for joining me once again. This has been the Nightmare Room. I am Nick Nightmare. Don't forget to tweet at me, at Nick Nightmare on Twitter. Let me know if you have a show idea, or something you want to talk about, something you want to hear my point of view on. Also, don't be afraid to hit that like button and click that subscribe button, because the Nightmare Room is exclusively available right here on YouTube.com. Don't forget also to tune into the Sledgehammer Wrestling Show podcast, which is coming at you each and every week, right after Raw, right after SmackDown. Well, maybe not right after, but at least the next day after each show, giving you the reviews, the highlights, the lowlights, the recaps, everything you need to know in the world of professional wrestling. Thank you again for joining us. Please don't forget to hit that like button, get my subscribers up, spread the word, tell your wrestling fan friends to come on and listen to this guy, because he's pretty funny, he's got some good insight, and he kind of knows what he's talking about. And we're going to see what they got for us this week. Thank you for tuning in. Check out the reviews this week. I'll be back here with another Nightmare Room. coming at you each and every weekend right here on YouTube. Have a good one, everybody.